All right, and welcome back for day number 20, or 20 ways to get, or number way 20 to get started in real estate investing. Obviously, I need more coffee, but I hope you've been enjoying this video series. This has been pretty much unscripted, pretty much unedited, just been kind of, shall we say, regurgitating a lot of information that I've learned over the last 7 years. A lot of people ask me, hey John, how do I get started in real estate? And many people just seem to think that there's only one way to get started in real estate. And there's a lot of creativity or creative ways that one can start relatively, easy or maybe a little bit simpler than other ways. And today's lesson for Wednesday, April 20th, I wanted to go over one that might not be, I don't want to say necessarily easy, but it can be very simple and can be pretty quick and painless in many cases. And this comes down to zoning. Now, for every municipality or every state, local jurisdiction, city, town, usually they have different zoning classifications. Residential, pretty self-explanatory. People live there. Commercial, thinking more of office space buildings. Maybe the local Walgreens or CVS, for instance. Industrial, fairly self-explanatory, where there's more manufacturing going on, maybe manufacturing of precision parts or assembling of computers or whatever the case may be. And then probably finally agriculture deals with more farming, obviously, whether you're growing beets or potatoes or soybeans or corn or whatever the case may be. So typically, those are the four zoning parameters that most municipalities will zone various areas and various properties for. Now, generally speaking, this is so that, say we have an industrial area, with a lot of smokestacks, and, wouldn't necessarily want a residential house right next door. Likewise, if you were this residential house there right now, you wouldn't necessarily want an industrial plant or maybe nuclear power plant or a waste disposal facility or something along those lines. So this is where zoning comes in for a lot of local municipalities, where basically they want to segment various areas for, okay, this area is for farming, this area is for residential, this area is for commercial, this area is for industrial. And, it doesn't have to necessarily be completely blocked off, but generally speaking, there may be some buffer zones. So let's just say this is farmland. Maybe there's just some buffer, I don't know, easement, natural resource area with some trees, some kind of a buffer perhaps. And then maybe way over here would be some industrial areas that's far enough away that isn't going to, affect a residential living area, farmland area. Same thing if there was runoff, maybe there's a, I don't know, a culvert or something that if there's any discharge from the industrial waste plants, it wouldn't run off and then affect the farmer's land right there. So that's just kind of a general overview of how zoning works. Everyone's a little bit different. Some municipalities are a little more conservative. Some states are a little bit more, shall we say, liberal. Some are fine with buffer zones. Some will put smaller buffer zones. I know years back here in Minnesota, there was a lot of controversy with how much of a buffer zone was from water areas to farmland to prevent runoff from like fertilizers going into drinking water or down, the river that would go downstream to an aquifer or somewhere else. A lot of farmers got upset with it because in many cases, it was an unfunded mandate where basically they said, you cannot farm in this plot of land, you cannot plant anything there, so far away from the river, but we're not going to compensate you anything. And many times when started digging into it more with the topography, the old adage, water doesn't run uphill. Well, If my land is up here and the river is over here and there's a big uphill that the water has to traverse in order to get into the river, well, a little bit difficult to get to that. So that's just kind of one example of how one state might, view zoning and buffer zones a little bit differently. But for today's lesson, we're basically just going to be talking about what if there's a way to rezone some areas. So I'm going to give a simple definition here. My hometown is Slayton. For years, across the road from where I lived, there was farmland. And this isn't necessarily knock against farmland. Farmland's better than residential. Residential is better than farmland. This is just kind of a general idea of how things worked out. And for whatever reason, this land was farmed for many years. But sometimes things change, developments change, and maybe, I don't know, maybe the soil just isn't conducive after a while to farming. Maybe the farmers didn't rotate the crops enough to replenish nutrients. So maybe it's just not really good for corn or soybeans versus other areas. Now, obviously, with any type of commercial, agricultural, industrial land, a lot of the value of the land, kind of back to the old real estate adage, location, location, location. If you have some farmland here that is just prime, cream of the crop farmland, just anything can grow, great yields, great harvest, etc., then that farmland is going to be worth more than, say, a farmland that doesn't grow as much. So, for instance, let's just say there is some farmland here, whatever the case may be, maybe the topography's changed and maybe gets a little bit more water runoff than it used to. Obviously, if you have crops underwater, they're not going to grow very well or have very fruitful yields. So that's going to push the value of the farmland down. Now, maybe we have some residential developments and maybe we can just, I don't know, build up the area a little bit more, change the topography a little bit. And like I said, this land might not be as conducive to farming as it used to be, but maybe we can purchase that land maybe as a lower value. And I don't know, what if we can rezone it? What if this was zoned for agricultural? I don't know, maybe just a couple acres. And obviously, you have to go through the proper permits, through the local governments, zoning boards, and say, I want to rezone this for residential. And they rezone it. And maybe now, since, I don't know, maybe the area, there's a huge pent up demand for residential houses, maybe right across the road is a prime residential area. Maybe there's a great school district nearby, so it'd be a prime area to build on. Obviously, if it's a farming area, the crops aren't going to care if there's a great school district nearby or not. That's more just dependent on the land and how well it produces crops. But, these are just some areas that maybe if we rezone it, it's the same land, it's the same patch of dirt, same acreage, same legal description, everything. We're just rezoning it from agricultural to residential, just to give an option. And maybe then developer can perhaps purchase that, then start putting some homes on there. And also this is a benefit for the cities because typically, farmland, agricultural doesn't yield as much for property tax revenue as the industrial, commercial, and residential areas. Obviously, we need farmland to produce crops and, feed ourselves. But like I said, if the topography's changed, if the area's changed, and it's not as conducive to farming as it was before, by rezoning this to residential could make this plot of land more valuable, build some homes on it. Now the local municipality is getting tax revenue from those residential areas versus just a barren lot or farm lot, or maybe it's just a barren lot that used to be farmed and now isn't for whatever reason. So this is just one area that simple rezoning could potentially increase the property value. And then of course you can keep it, you can develop it, sell it to a developer, lease it out, whatever the case may be. Now, also in conjunction with this, and this would be in an area that you really know the, shall we say, the path of progress, where maybe that a developer is looking to expand to the northern part of town, or maybe there's a lot of buildup of residential area. I don't know, maybe the south end of town for whatever reason, and they're starting to get to the end of the building area. And I don't know, maybe there's some vacant land, there's some farmland, there's some old land. You might even drive some towns through some towns, and you'll see big signs that say zone for industry use, contact the Economic Development Authority. Typically, these are areas where plots of lands have been put aside, might even be owned by the city, and they want to encourage development, encourage businesses to come in and build factories, build manufacturing centers, warehouse, industrial areas, whatever the case may be. Obviously bring more building, more construction, bring in more jobs, and obviously more tax revenue. But perhaps maybe as an industrial, this just hasn't worked. And maybe as a, you knowing the path of progress, that this developer is starting to expand outward, and maybe even get a tidbit through, I don't know, the local Department of Transportation, that maybe there's a large highway that's going to be a bypass later on through this area, a couple of years down the line. So in conjunction with rezoning, I don't know if you want to call it speculation. I would say it'd be very uneducated guess per se. If an investor were to purchase, say, this plot of land that was set up for industrial purposes, or maybe the city owns it, or vacant farmland, whatever the case may be, purchases it. I mean, I've heard instances where a plot of land was purchased for $10,000, and the owner basically sat on this. And later on, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, new highway bypasses put in, new residential properties are put in, but maybe even a developer wants to put in a large, I don't know, shopping mall, mixed use commercial building, and they need land to build on. So before, this vacant land was really not worth much to anyone. But now with all the development that's progressing, we got a highway that's being built in, and now this property is need to be built, but needs a plot of land to be built on. Years ago, I actually read in a book, and of course, escapes me at the moment, but there was a guy that actually bought pretty much a worthless plot of land, nothing really going on. And the plot of land he purchased for about $1,000. Now, he had a little bit insider knowledge, knew that there was some new developments coming in, a new manufacturing company was coming in, and there was going to be a lot of development in the area that he purchased that quote worthless plot of land for $1,000. Fast forward a number of years, he sold that to a developer for $100,000. So a 100x gain, put in $1,000, basically made $99,000 pure profit. The really cool part about this is this was all within a Roth IRA. If you watched some of my podcasts or blogs before about Roth IRAs, put money in, you don't get a tax deduction on the front end, but all the money in that Roth IRA grows tax-free. So whether you buy a plot of land for $1,000 and flip it for $100,000, make a $99,000 profit, that profit is 100% tax-free, and that will be basically tax-free forever. Uncle Sam cannot tax that account going forward. So this is just a couple of different areas you can think of in regards to rezoning, basically buying a plot of land and having it rezoned, maybe from farmland to industrial, industrial to residential, residential to multifamily. There's different segments of those zoning classifications. Local municipality might have it R1, R2, R3, R4 for various levels of residential, whereas okay, you can build a single family home here, but you can't build a 100-unit apartment complex, or vice versa. This is set aside for a 100-unit apartment complex, or maybe a high-rise building, condominium complex, assisted living, for instance. You can't just go in there and buy it. And it's like, well, I'm just going to build this, whatever 10,000 square foot mansion with a huge private swimming pool, etc. So just a couple different ideas to give you an idea of what's is possible in the real estate world. If you don't have a lot of capital to spend, maybe, you're not a huge developer, a fix and flipper, you can always look to purchase the land and be on the path of progress. And maybe a developer comes and buys that plot of land and let them worry about all the rezoning. Or you yourself can purchase the land, go to the local zoning board, say, hey, I want to rezone this from agricultural to residential, agricultural to industrial, or whatever the case may be, and potentially make a good profit. Essentially the same land, it's just rezoned for a different purpose. That rezoning could make the land more valuable in that process. So I hope you learned a couple of good nuggets from this. If you haven't noticed, I've repeated the word land quite a few times, which will actually play a part into tomorrow's video for the 21st way to get started in real estate investing. So be sure to hit that subscribe button so you do not miss out on tomorrow's video. Take care.